Alright, welcome back to my channel. My name is Melanie, and if you're new here, this is a place where I like to talk about books and stories of all kinds, and especially most often, what I learned from those stories. Today, I'm going to be talking about a series of unfortunate events, the entire series. There will be no spoilers in this particular video, but I will be talking about some things I learned from the series and the writing and how it affects me as a writer. I started reading this series like 10 years ago and never finished, but there are a lot of things that I learned from this series that I'm really grateful for, things that I think will help me as a writer, and simply just things I enjoyed. For those of you who don't know, a series of unfortunate events is true to its name, and it is about three orphans, Violet, Klaus, and Sunny Baudelaire, who find out on a kind of gray day that their parents have perished in a fire. The events that follow most often involve Count Olaf, their first guardian after they lose their parents, who is out to attain their fortune. He is greedy and malicious and violent and evil. Truly, he's not a very nice guy. And you get to see how he tries to meddle his way into each guardian relationship the kids find, and yeah, without spoilers, that's kind of where the momentum kicks off. But what are some things that I learned about this series? In the About page, talking about the illustrator and the author, Lemony Snicket is a pen name, but Lemony Snicket is cited as having studied rhetoric. He is a rhetor, and that gives credit to his education as a youth. If you read the other books, I haven't read them, but there are other books taking place in the same world as A Series of Unfortunate Events, and Lemony Snicket is a whole character in the world, in the story, and he is the one telling you the story, and also you learn a little bit about him as the story goes along, even though he's talking about the Baudelaire. So he's very much tied into it, and it is said that he studied rhetoric. So what is rhetoric? Rhetoric is defined in the dictionary as the art of effective or persuasive speaking or writing, especially the use of figures of speech and other compositional techniques. So if you've read the books, you know that Lemony Snicket loves his figures of speech. He will introduce one, tell you what it means, and then he'll use it often throughout the story. In 350 BC, Aristotle sort of dissected appeals of persuasion, appeals to rhetoric, and they utilize three specific tools or methods, those being ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos is the appeal to authority or reputation, credibility of the speaker or writer. Pathos or pathos, however you pronounce it, is the appeal to the emotions, feelings, and the experience of individuals. And logos is the appeal to logic, reason, and facts. So what does that have to do with anything? Why does it matter that Lemony Snicket studied rhetoric? The whole story is set up in a way that kind of shows the dynamics of characters and how rhetoric and persuasion is not just a matter of like law and profession, it is a matter of everyday life. And in communicating with each other, in regular situations and desperate situations, like the Baudelaire's experience, we utilize rhetoric all the time. There are some scenes in which the kids really do have, like, all the facts, the arguments, but because of bias, because of someone's personal experience, the logos doesn't click. So it kind of goes to show that you kind of need a balance to persuade, and some people just won't be persuaded. Conflict in your writing can be effectively constructed through the use of these appeals. You can establish an unreliable narrator. You can make them extremely reliable, so you trust and hang on to their every word. You can dole out facts in just the right way to change perspective. You can talk about how characters feel. And then when characters are communicating with each other, you can change how well they communicate, show what they prioritize by what appeals they use in their everyday life, with other people, in their jobs, to get an idea of who they are and how they function and how they communicate. How we communicate is incredibly important. Aside from the use of rhetoric, in a more basic and simple way, just the words we use can have a very changing effect on our characters' experiences, understanding, and our readers' understanding and intake of the story. Several times throughout a series of unfortunate events, Lemony Snicket will provide a definition for a word, but he won't just say the definition of this word is, he will say which here means. So he'll present a word to you and then tell you what it means in the context of the story. For example, Snicket at one point uses the word indignantly to describe how Violet is saying something, and instead of saying that she is annoyed or angry at how unfair something is, which is more an accurate definition for what indignant or indignantly means, it specifies that it here means in defense of an innocent baby. So she's defending her sister. She's saying, our sister didn't bite anyone. And she doesn't just say it. He doesn't leave it at that. She says it indignantly. And it kind of gives you an example of like, yeah, you know what the word means, and you might have the definition. A kid can look it up in a dictionary. But a kid reading the book can understand context of words, how we use them, and how that affects communication. So many times in the story, adults and kids to kids and adults between adults, they don't communicate very well, and their use of words is so different and contrasting. And I think on top of rhetoric, you can utilize just the slight change in use of words to add to the conflict and to give the characters a little bit more personality. And I think as far as just the general concept of words is that they don't just mean what they mean. It's not all about the exact definition, it's how we use them. Language is just so much what we're trying to say, not what we're literally saying. So use of words can be more than the literal meaning. You can read into what a character says by how they specifically speak, and you as an author, your author voice can be established in the types of words you use for situations. For a character, in a sense, in the stories that you write, even if you're not in the world, you don't take place in the world. So just remember, the words your characters use, what they are literally saying, is often just the tip of the iceberg of what is truly going on. And that kind of leads into the third thing that I learned. I learned about mystery and illumination and how much you should or shouldn't illuminate based on the experience you want your reader to have. Much of this story follows the Baudelaires as they start to unravel this kind of mystery. There are secret organizations, dark pasts, weird relationships, old relationships, unexplained events, codes, puzzles, lost loves, and simply unexplained just stuff. Things that are given to you without you knowing exactly why. And without spoiling anything, by the end, you still don't know everything. You have a decent idea, but you don't know it all. Oftentimes, when you get more information, when the characters get more information in the story, you are left with more questions and more, wait, what is that? And all that stuff. And it's fun and interesting. But what's the point of this mystery? What does that teach me as a writer? Well, I think and I've talked about this in other videos, it's incredibly important that you don't always just mama bird people the information. You don't just want to dump it down their throats, be like, here you go, you're nourished, you got the information, you're good to go. You have to kind of ease into it. And sometimes you just have to present it and see what they get out of it. I think so many writers in their earlier stages of writing, myself included, are like, but what if they don't catch on to this? You have to trust your readers. And I feel like Lemony Snicket does. He trusts you to figure it out, that you are smart enough to understand what's going on without having to spoon feed you all the information, all the facts, and what everything means. I think the less you illuminate in a mystery, the more frightening like the shadows are. Think of like a cave. If you're in a dark cave and you can't quite see the end, and you never do, that cave seems a lot bigger than it actually might be. And if it's all illuminated, you have all the views and all the answers. It might still be scary, but you're not necessarily like enthralled by it, and you want your characters to be like, wait a second, through every step of the story. And it's really satisfying when they even get to the end and they're still like, wait a second, Giving tiny little pieces of information, letting your readers make those connections, that creates tension and intrigue, and they're never satisfied in the perfect way. Those are just some thoughts I have about how you can utilize rhetoric between characters and as a writer to your readers, how you can establish trust with your readers, what words do to a story, how words aren't more than their definition, that they are context and language and communication. Thank you so much, guys, for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any other ideas for me, please comment. If you have any ideas about this video, please let me know. Like, subscribe, share. Right now I post videos every other Thursday, so be looking out for those, and I will see you around. Bye!